For the past 6 months, Donald Trump has been testing a strategy to force mortgage rates lower. We didn't know he was doing this, but what we did know was that mortgage rates were dropping. It wasn't until December that Bloomberg reported that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac had been quietly accumulating bonds.
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have added billions of dollars of mortgage-backed securities and home loans to their balance sheets in recent months.
In the article, analysts had speculated that they could potentially add another $100 billion in 2026. But when Trump came out and said $200 billion, the mortgage market was shocked.
Last night's housing announcement, which Eamon referenced there, has pushed mortgage rates below 6% today to hit their lowest level in nearly 3 years. They're $5.99, as you can see.
So what is their mission?
We want to keep home prices high, but we want to make sure that homes are affordable. And that is only something that a president who understands real estate can do.
So can they keep home prices up? Remember, we said they've been doing this for 6 months, and yet home prices barely budged this year nationally. In Nashville, the median price was flat. Zillow reported that 65% of homes were actually lower than where they were a year before, and demand or closed volume, it was flat. However, on the affordability front, affordability has been improving since October of 2023. However, if we go back and look 6 months ago when they started ramping up Fannie and Freddie holding mortgage bonds, we've noticed that affordability improved every single month. Now, what's interesting about this is it feels more like this was a test run and then they're going to ramp it up in 2026. That is interesting because it's not the only thing they're going to do. Politico is reporting that Trump is also working on a way to tap into your 401ks to use your retirement funds for purchasing a home. Now, in the past, you're able to use a very small amount, but it sounds like this is about lifting the caps and removing the penalties. Now, Pulte has said that they're going to make more announcements at Davos in a couple weeks. We'll have to wait then to see what of these proposals they actually do, but that's not the only initiatives that they have underway. In fact, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, he's increasingly relying on bills to relieve pressure on the 10-year bond from the federal government. This directly impacts mortgage rates. And on the tariff front, Trump is shifting gears when it comes to housing.
President Trump spent part of his New Year's Eve delaying tariffs that were set to go into place on New Year's Day on upholstered furniture, kitchen cabinets, and vanities as well. The move will keep in place a 25% tariff that the president imposed in September, but it's going to delay a 30% tariff on upholstered furniture and a 50% tariff on cabinets and vanities.
Now, when we look at Nashville, there is an uphill climb to keep home prices steady. In fact, I've talked to a lot of realtors who are very pessimistic on the Nashville housing market when it comes to price. But can we see this stabilizing the housing market? Well, we have 1,000 more active listings going into 2026 than we do 2025. But what's interesting about that additional 1,000 units is that about the time that they started buying Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac mortgage bonds, we started seeing a change in inventory on the supply side, which I thought was rather odd. Instead of growing, it started shrinking. Sellers started backing off on listing their house and being more motivated. That being said, because of the additional listings we still had many more buyers get much better deals. If you take the median price, it's flat, but if you look at sellers, they feel like they're getting less. In fact, that's what Zillow is suggesting, that sellers are getting less while buyers are still spending the same amount. When it comes to contracts, we are flat. We've been basically flat for months. Now, what makes this especially fascinating is look at mortgage rates. Mortgage rates started the year at 7.25. They are now under 6%. I guess it says 6.06, but more than 100 basis points, 1% lower. And yet we're starting out on the same level of demand. This is something to watch. Will demand increase as mortgage rates go under 6? When we look at who's jumping into the market, it's still very, very early. But some of the early trends I'm seeing, still Davidson County, the urban core, is stronger than some of the outlier counties, especially Williamson County. When it comes to price range, the 350 to 650, the most interest rate sensitive groups seem to be jumping back in a little bit more than the ones just above that group, 650 to $1 million. This makes me wonder if there's a shift in who's actually buying right now as mortgage rates hit low sixes. Next week will be the first week where most people are probably getting quotes in the fives. I am personally buying a house, and the house that we are buying, I got a 5875 with a $2,200 credit. That means I'm not buying down points, but I'm actually getting a credit that will offset some of the costs. I'm going to show you a house that is probably one of the biggest losses that I have seen. We're in the Edge Hill area. This is just east of Vanderbilt. And if we click on it, you can see the year-over-year change in this area is minus 7.5%. So it's had a pretty steep drop, but you can see up to $2.3 million houses as low as $500,000. Let's just take a look on the inside because there's more under contract now than there was last year at this time. It's a little bit hotter when it comes to demand. So what's going on? Well, there's one house in particular, and we're going to zoom in on it by going to total bedrooms. I'm going to check the 4-bedroom here. And what you can see is this right here. It's 1103A 13th Avenue South. Now, why am I showing you this? It sold right here for $348 a foot. It's now listed for $287 a foot. It is still active. Now, I posted about this one. This was one of the larger losses that I had seen in Nashville. And one of the things you need to realize about this market is in 2022, when there was limited supply, people didn't have choices. We go back and we look at what was the supply in 2022. When they bought this, there was more under contract than active, which is crazy, right? I mean, they probably didn't have any options when this went under contract. And now what we can see is as soon as there's active listings, that there's price discovery. This is a house that when there was nothing for sale, it would go for 1.1, but now that there's supply and you can compare it to others, you realize this is not a $1.1 million house. We are seeing price corrections happen. You do have to be careful in this market. Now, one other thing I wanted to show you, I am taking a closer eye on active listings. Okay, active listings, it's very early, but active listings jumped 123 listings. This was taken on Friday. And there was a jump of 123. That was double what it was last year. This number, this 15.9%, is actually expanding a little bit. It was down as low as 15%, but this is a slow week. And so it jumping up is something to keep an eye on. If this accelerates quicker, we could see a very soft spring and lower interest rates. Now, some people theorize that prices drop along with mortgage rates. It certainly happened in 2008. I'm not sure it will happen this time, but it certainly could. I'm not dismissing it. That being said, active listings are the thing to watch. So will Trump be able to pump his way up even into Nashville's housing market? I'm going to let you all decide. Tell me what you think. Will he make prices stay high as Pulte said, or are we going to see mortgage rates drop and prices drop at the same time? You tell me. And with that, I look forward to seeing you next Saturday. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next Saturday.